Welcome to No Straight Lines, the podcast that gets real about performance, resilience, and what it really takes to grow, lead, and thrive. This isn't just about the wins, it's about the work, the grit, the setbacks, and the strength to keep going when things go wrong. I'm Laurence Winmill, your host, an entrepreneur, and someone who's learned resilience through facing some of life's toughest moments. Each week I sit down with leaders from the world of business, sport, entertainment and the community to unpack the moments that shaped them, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Because success, it's never a straight line. This is No Straight Lines, stories of the unbreakable. Rob, we've known each other for many years. I've had the privilege of working with you. I know your story pretty well, to say the least. Thanks for joining us today on No Straight Lines, Stories of the Unbreakable. And I genuinely say this, that your story is one of those that demonstrates resilience in every shape and form. And unbreakable, I think, is the key word in all of this. Yeah. Can we dive straight in there, all right? And I know these are difficult questions for you. But what's your interpretation of resilience? And just give us an insight as to how you've had to find resilience during your life.
Resilience is very important to everyone. And I think in my case, it's easier to look back, of course. And years ago, there's certain little things that happened, which I think, that was a signal, unfortunately not to me at the time. But now with hindsight, it was a signal that there was a bit of difficulty in mental terms. So there's little little marks in my life that I look back and I think,
So where was that first mark? And when did it happen?
The first I've always been somebody who, like the village idiot, in the sense that I project the thing that I'm a fool, I lark about, and I still do, and I enjoy that. But it is a front, because I remember the first things was in the fire service. I did 11 years in the fire service. There was a couple of things there, and I remember, it's not remember, I would never forget, but I had a call to say that my mum had died.
All right.
I was 29 then. Now, obviously, goes without saying, that's a big, massive thing for everyone.
Huge.
But it was a complete shock. She hadn't been ill. And that was a point whereby, in addition to my mental state that I'm saying now, that really impacted on me, as you'd expect. But in the sense that, I needed help.
Okay, well, let's start with that, all right? Because I've never really had an open conversation with you about your mum. But I know, and you know, because you were there, that very recently I lost a parent, and that had a massive impact upon my life. You were at my dad's funeral, and I know that affected me, and it affected the way I thought about life and my ability really to sort of try to understand how monumental that was and how I move forward from that point. But I'm at a different time in my life. At 29, that was you were a young man, a very young man in a very active job, and obviously that affected you. And did you become clinically depressed at that time?
Not at that time, although I was aware that I was, say, suffering, for want of a better phrase, and there's certain things then happened. I thought, that's not me, but they did, and I think I was seeking attention and help. That's my take on it now. At the time, of course, you don't see it quite like that.
No, you don't. No, not of course. Now, let's just reflect. Bit of background for those who are tuning into this podcast. Born and bred in the Rhondda Valley.
Oh yes.
Again, as you said, you're a very funny guy. A lot of it, as you say, is a front. Behind it is reality, of course. But ever since I've known you, which is a long period of time, you've referred to yourself as the Valley Viper. Now, I don't really know what that means. maybe we can't discuss it on the podcast.
Well, and there's a lady present.
But I guess it sums up your character. I mentioned the Rhondda Valley, and you still live in the Rhondda, of course. I think you still probably live in your well, it's your house now.
Yeah.
But you've built a family in the Rhondda. You've had a career that has changed dramatically over the years, from the fire service to media, to running your own photography business, to being involved in hospitality, helping out events. I think right throughout your life, we've seen examples of resilience, strength, character, setback, being able to regroup, move forward. Not everybody can do that, but you have. 29 was a monumental time in your age timeline with the loss of your mum. It affected you dramatically, but how did you move forward? You were aware that something was happening. How did you move forward from that point? Did you just put it in a box and move forward, or did you have to take time off?
Not very well initially, because I was okay, but I was drinking too much for a few years. I won't dwell on that, but I wasn't, but I was.
Self-medicating?
Yeah, and then it's a case of everybody needs some income.
Yeah.
And then I sort of built upon my past experience. Fire service. During the fire service, I did other things to make up the salary, like selling food from the back of a lorry in markets.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of sales in me. And of course, as you know then, one of the things I did, I applied for a job in the Western Mail and Echo, as it was.
But I didn't know, the reason I thought you left the fire service, was that just a career change, the Western Mail and Echo, or was it through an injury?
It was through an injury.
Ah.
However, and there was other issues. I think, it was time, there was other issues. But I thought, I've got to get a job. Seen it advertised in the old job section, Western Mail. Oh, that sounds interesting. Went for the interview, and of course I got the job, which was great for me because there's something to focus on, obviously to gain income, and a challenge. Because I think I'm definitely a jack of all trades and definitely a master of none. There's no doubt.
I wouldn't say that, not at all, not at all. So we'll come on to the Western Mail in a moment, but I'm interested, if you don't mind, that is, in just chatting about this fire service. So during that time in the fire service, as a fireman, you see all sorts of things, I'm sure. There must have been some real dark moments. There must have been some very rewarding moments, like there can be in any career. So for you, what were those standout moments in the fire service? The things that put you under massive pressure again, and maybe one or two of those sort of memorable moments?
The standout things for me is camaraderie.
Yeah.
It's massive, as you can imagine, because it's a disciplined, inverted commas, military operation. But you get to know people, and there's fantastic people in the fire service.
Did that help when your mum passed, that you had those people around you?
Oh yes, most definitely. But it's high pressure at times, and firemen, by the way, tend to be. This is a psychology sort of point. They tend to be quite childish. And I mean
I'm starting to understand it now.
Yeah, no, because they are privy, or not privy, they're prone to high pressure incidents now and again.
Yes.
The downside meaning you're not busy. Yeah. You just get up to all different things. And honestly, we're all the same. Of course, I was probably the worst. Yeah. Because of the background I mentioned. But that's the biggest gain. But yeah, I saw some terrible sights. And all I would say quickly is that you get people in the fire service saying, oh, you'll get used to it, which is a load of rubbish, because you don't get used to it. Because if I give you an example where if you went to a fire or an incident, somebody lost their lives, say in the evening, and we're working all right, I can assure you that when we went back to the station, nobody would lay to rest, they call it.
So how did you manage that? Because I know we talk about soldiers, for example, and people who come, we hear it all the time about infantrymen or people who serve coming back into normal life and then suffering with PTSD, etc. So that based on trauma, I'm not saying you were diagnosed with PTSD, but
No.
did any of this happen to you? How do you compartmentalize that? How do you put these things into a
Well, I think
place?
I think you park it. I think you're trained, of course, to deal with these circumstances. So, but then you do your job.
Yeah.
You put it to one side and you move on. I think that's the short answer.
Do you think about it now? Because this was a long time ago.
No, I wouldn't say, but I have in the past. You know, without going into detail, I mean, I can remember every bad incident.
I bet you can.
And luckily, I didn't see any children injured.
Good.
But you know, which I think would have been an extra burden then.
Well, the other thing is, I got to know about you. I know that you've got massive links to rugby, and we can talk about that shortly. But you were a very, very good sports person in your own right. So as a kid growing up, I think you were on schoolboy forms, I think, with Northampton Town from a footballing point of view, and the big one at Everton Football Club. And you also played for Wales in under 15 level. Now I also know that your big passion is rugby. So what were you doing kicking the round ball instead of running with the oval ball?
Well, going back to the school, which is relevant, I went to Porth County Grammar School.
Right.
It was for boys, they were separate and for girls. So as you walk through, it was a rugby school. In those days, the grammar school were just rugby. Soccer didn't exist. So when I was 11-year-old, you go in there, you're expected to play rugby, which I did. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was pretty decent at that. I remember being, you know, the old thing, right, anybody play soccer here? Put your hand up, or you were hooker. So I was hooker for the season. Then we had a race, and I think, you know, I could run a bit.
Yeah.
So, you're too fast for a hooker, right?
You're on the wing.
A centre actually, and then, anyway, I ended up 10. So, but at the same time, soccer came in, and I was playing for local clubs and stuff, and I was pretty good at that, I suppose. And I ended up playing for Wales under 15, Wales youth and stuff. But
Everton?
Everton. It's probably because I like the mints. But but Everton, I was there for nearly 3 years. But I didn't make it in the end. But there's a story. Harry Catterick was the manager at the time.
Right.
And everything, you know things are going well, and things are going well. But then he resigned, I think. Yeah. And then a guy called Billy Bingham took over.
I remember him.
And believe it or not, I didn't hear anything.
Wow.
Which nowadays, you know, if that
was
applied,
it?
Yeah. Which was strange because it was amazing up there. I was trained a couple of times with the likes of Alan Ball.
Wow.
You know,
that's
legend.
Amazing.
Brian LeBourne,
and for
Morrissey,
the record, for
Ken.
those young people listening, Alan Ball represented England in the World Cup in 1966 when they won the World Cup. That's right,
and he was given the unofficial man of the match in the final, actually.
Was he?
Yeah. But, you know, so it was a great experience.
But come back to that word that I've been talking about, which is resilience. You talk about the setback, for example, 29 in the fire service when your mum tragically suddenly died. But from a young lad, when you were up at Everton, I don't hold you 14, 13, maybe 15, that level. So when a change of management took place there, and I don't know, you just disappeared off their radar without any sort of formal notice. Up here, how did that make you? How did you deal with that?
Well, over a period of time, you're obviously very disappointed. You're questioning why they haven't been in touch. Mm-hmm. I also question, I don't mean this as swipe, you know, you think, why didn't my parents get in touch with them? Mm-hmm. But in those days, it was all different. Nowadays, of course, it would be a phone call, this and that.
An email.
So I'm not blaming my mother and father, far from it. My mother and father were absolutely wonderful people.
Yeah, okay.
Particularly my mum.
But again, and I've played football, but not at that level. All credit to you, but I know when I've had a bad game or I've been dropped from the team, and I'm talking about a local team, you do think about it. You do try and sort of process as to what went wrong. Why didn't I play well? Why was he selected as opposed to myself, etc. So you must have had all of those questions, but obviously at a different level because you're at a professional football club. A local boy from the Rhondda having that setback at that time, is big, isn't it? It's significant.
Yeah, but also concurrently, I was playing rugby, men's rugby, from the age of 15.
Wow.
For Porth Rugby Club. I was playing along with my teachers in grammar school, etc.
At 15?
At 15. And it could be, that's, too many bumps, I think.
Right.
But no, seriously.
So you felt you had that to fall back on,
yeah, and it was a great experience because I played with minors, because the pitch was still open then. You're talking 1971. A couple of the pitches in Rhondda were still open, Lewis Merthyr. Played with minors who, they are...
hard.
Well, and salt of the earth people. They'd look after you. If somebody gave me a little bit of a dig or a clout, they tended to be
so are you saying...
stretch it off.
I'm from the valleys as well, as you know, so I think we both share similar values, but then I can relate to what you're saying, because growing up in those small mining communities, there was great camaraderie, as you say. Everybody knew everybody's business, as you know.
Yeah.
But that was good and bad, because when bad things happen, there were people around you to support, to help, whether it's in times of loss with a parent, or indeed in something happens personally in relation to your own development, as indeed with football. I can see it now. I could probably set the scene. You suddenly basically, fall out of the Everton system, and you've got the local miners around you in the Rhondda basically say, you'll be all right, but come and join the rugby team, or crack on with the rugby team. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they bring you down to earth with a bump, don't they? And you've got to get on with it.
Yeah, wonderful
and all credit
people.
for you for doing it. So I first met you in the world of media because I, like yourself, was working at the Western Mail, and then you turned up there one day, and I can remember seeing this larger-than-life character waltz through the door, and I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, this guy's just wandered in, I don't know who the hell he is, but it's as if he's been here for the last 20 years. And that's credit to you in terms of your outgoing, outbound personality. But just for the purpose of the podcast, why media? Why did you decide to step into the goldfish bowl of media in Cardiff?
The honest truth is, I mentioned earlier, there was no particular reason.
Yeah.
But I suppose I thought I could sell.
Well, you could.
Because it was a sales rep's job. And just touching on that, because I'm older than you, much older, it was still a big step, because a Rhondda boy, born in 1956, to come out of Rhondda, or the valleys, it's honestly, and I think again that front was a bit of a camouflage, because what I found is I've said lots of Rhondda people, for good reason, have an inferiority complex.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. But I've changed my thoughts on that. It's not an inferiority complex. It's more like they go into assessment mode, which I think is very intelligent. In other words, when I went to Cardiff and I heard the different accents, etc., my first thing is doubt. My first thing was doubt. I don't know if I can do what they're doing.
I think you're right, and I can relate to it, because it's a big... back in the day, if you lived and you worked in the valleys, although Cardiff is just literally half an hour, 40 minutes down the road, it was a massive step. People never really used to do it that often. So going down to Cardiff was a big trip. To go and work in Cardiff with a completely different demographic of people. And I say that because I understand it. I went through it myself in terms of coming from the valleys. You're stepping into a bigger environment, mixing with different people, which today, if you mentioned this to people in the valleys today, they wouldn't blink. But the world has changed, isn't it? Back in our day, it was completely different. So, again, this key word, resilience. You've found your way. You've come out of the fire service. You're back into work. But this is on a bit of a different sort of pedestal, isn't it? So the spotlight is very much on you. What did you learn during that first year working within the Western Mail and Echo environment in Cardiff?
Well, learn is the right word, because it was completely new to me. But my approach to selling then, if you want to say, I'm far from perfect, I can tell you, but I've got a mentality of a perfectionist. If I'm going to do something, I've got to do it right.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anything about newspapers, how they produced, nothing. So I did make an effort to find out exactly down to, you know, the production team and stuff, went over there. Like, funny enough, I remember going, you know, remember old Doug Hales and stuff, going up to him, and they had a white line on the floor
Couldn't
those
cross the
days.
line.
And the unions and stuff. And I'm going up and saying, "Oh, excuse me, bud.
Yeah.
Excuse me, bud. Tell me how." He'd never been asked before.
No, it's coming back, mine. It's happening now.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? So I went and I had to find out everything about this. So at least I had that knowledge, how it worked, because people matter to me, honestly. It's respect. And I'm just saying this, I did that naturally anyway.
Now, you had a good career in newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
You had a really good career. You were working in leaflet distribution, I think, at the outset.
I started.
And you eventually ended up working on some newspaper titles, which we can talk about. And on the face of it, you had a really, really good career. But over the space of that 10 years, or maybe longer, maybe 15, 16 years, just give us an insight again in some of those setbacks that set you back and how you bounced back from that.
In general, as you said, it was a great period, but there's always obviously the call it the pressure then, pressure rather than stress. So if I was set a target, I had to hit that target. There was no ifs and buts. I'd have to do it. So that was good, because that's literally a goal you had to aim to. Yeah. And I think that's great. So you are on your own as a rep, but of course you've got support with your managers and stuff. And that was important. But I think I just had to, I mentioned the perfectionist thing. I had to succeed. There was no ifs and buts. If I had failed, that would have been a double blow to me.
So what drove you then? You're saying that you had to succeed. Yeah, we can all say that. I have to succeed. Yeah. But actually saying it and doing it are two different things. So what was driving you? When you say, I have to succeed, I have to, what was driving you inside?
Well, I think the sports background, you know, competitive nature probably is definitely in me, and has been and still is. But I think that is, as I mentioned to you, I need to do things properly, and properly to me equals success, as well as, you know, i.e. hitting targets and stuff.
So what was your biggest win in newspapers?
Well, being successful. I mean, ultimately, as you would know, I was made a senior rep, and then I became a manager of the Wales on Sunday. I then was farmed out up into the valleys, up in Merthyr, which was a great move, because that suited me.
What was the job title in Merthyr?
Well, it was the advertising manager, I believe, but it was for
the Celtic titles.
Yeah, Celtic titles, and I had a lovely, fantastic team in Merthyr.
Well, Robert, yeah, I've told you this many times, but we worked together on Wales on Sunday.
Yeah.
I knew you before that because you came into the leaflet distribution department, and I was working in, I think I was working on the free newspaper division at the time. And I was responsible for a project called Wales on Sunday, which was trying to realign that product as it was going through a tough time, I think, to say the least, and bring the title back into profitability. And you remember a guy called Richard Scudamore, former chief executive of the Premier League, and he was the driver behind that. I reported directly in, well, he's the guy who gave me the job, and then it was our line manager, the intermediate, Lynn Cardwell, who basically sort of reported directly into him. What I remember about it is that me effectively having a team of people and losing a team of people in a very short period of time, and then having to rebuild the team. And you were one of the key people in that new team. You were one of the people that I had on my list. And there's no doubt about it, and this is me speaking honestly, is that we wouldn't have had the success we did, and it was huge success, without the right dynamics and the right people, and you were called to that. So what I saw with you as an individual was somebody who was able to operate in a team, was somebody who wasn't going to give up, who was going to work and hit his targets and demonstrate to others basically how they should follow. And you did that. You did it, you ticked every box. And within a very short period of time, we turned that title around, and eventually I left and you picked up the reins. But for me, I think you underestimate yourself, because you're not just a salesperson. You're a brilliant people person, great management skills, maybe without knowing it, and that set the precedent for you to go on to do other things, then up in the Valley titles and everything else. The question from me to you, though, is during that time at Wales on Sunday, what were the standout moments where you honestly saw, the defining moments for you, where you could see that you'd made it, your career was up on that trajectory and you were onwards to the next senior position? What was the standout?
First of all, and it was down to you, the team that you created, it was special. We were all friends, we were helping each other, albeit we had our individual targets. Okay, you can say a team target, which you were responsible for, but a great crowd of people, you know.
So did you replicate that in Valleys when you went up to Merthyr?
Oh, definitely.
Did you have to build a new team, or did you inherit
Inherited a team.
Yeah.
The fact that they were all Valley people, well, actually one wasn't, but I think that helped, because from a personality point of view,
it worked.
Yeah, it worked. And they were a good team anyway, don't get me wrong. It's just that I'd like to think I added to it. I know I added to it in pounds, shillings and pence terms, you know. More money's coming in and raised it and stuff like that. But to me, you know, any manager is only as good as his team, as his people.
Well, you ticked all the boxes. You obviously had developed your own skill sets, and you demonstrated your management capabilities. And within, I think it was Thomson Regional Newspapers at the time, it was acquired then by Trinity Mirror Group, I think it was, wasn't it?
That's right.
But you built yourself a great career there, and that's one of the reasons. I had moved on by this time, of course. And I'd moved on to United News and Media and was working down in Newport with the South Wales Argus. And I brought you back into the business. We talked about a potential opportunity for a job there. I think the time was right for you. You came into that job. We didn't work together for very long at the Argus, because it's a very different animal as well to what we were working on in Cardiff and in Merthyr with the weekly titles. But working on a daily newspaper in Newport was a different animal, to say the least. So I think you need a bit of resilience there. Well, how would you sum up your time at the South Wales Argus?
Not very pleasurable. It's just that that environment there, it was even a shock to me.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind I'd been working in advertising for quite a while then. But I just thought, I went into there and there was individuals and collectively, it was just a brilliant culture. And that's what I couldn't cope with. As you're aware, in the end, that really got to me. And I just couldn't fit into that. Fairness, equal opportunity, everything that's so important to me. But I felt the beast there was so what's the word? Cutting.
I get it, and I think these are brutal conversations. Okay, and we're down into the nitty gritty. The fact is, it was a different environment. It was tough. It's a daily newspaper. The speed of the whole process was much quicker. We would, as I said, been working on weekly titles. But another important thing is team dynamics. It was, and it did. You know, what worked in Merthyr on Wales on Sunday didn't quite work on the Argus. But again, you've demonstrated, as it happens to us all, it's happened to me many times, is that setbacks happen. You know, the success that we talk about, Everton, it was successful, then it wasn't successful. Newspapers, it was successful, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where that success isn't happening any longer. And then these defining moments, how would you redefine, how would you build back from that? And I know you made a decision, and it sticks in my memory as well, between us we made the decision, that eventually you left that job. But it wasn't the end. You went away and you sort of figured out another way forward. And I think what I know about you is ever since that, which was probably 20 years ago now, maybe a bit longer.
Yeah, just that.
And this is where your entrepreneurial skills kick in for me, as an outsider looking in. You've rebuilt yourself a whole life. in photography, in events, in advising on hospitality. How did you do that?
Well, I had to do something. So it was a case, I was lucky because when I left the Argus, I was approached by a couple of people actually to work for them because they'd seen something, don't ask me what, but so I started selling for various people.
Right.
So print. So again, the same job.
This is this never give up mentality again.
Yeah,
You've got to
so
bounce back and do something.
Yeah,
with my
so
life.
it was another educate yourself, because although I knew quite a bit about print, not actual printing. So there was a company up in Mardy who I'll forever be grateful for them. They got me on a self-employed basis, on a contract. I sold for them, very successful, because I did build a portfolio of people they'd never even approached through contacts in the past. So anyway, it is a case, hey listen, you've got to get money, putting it as blunt.
Where does that come from? Are these old sort of valley values, this never give up mentality, those guys, those coal miners and the guys in the working men's club who sort of...
I'm pleased to say that you've got to have some pride, and rather than sit on your backside, which I did in down periods, I got to do something here.
So you went out and did what you do best, which is sell. You started to sell yourself as a person before you sold your product, and you're brilliant at that, as I know firsthand. And then beyond that, you re-educated yourself, re-skilled, and now a brilliant photographer, and you've got a business in your own right, in RS photography. And then beyond that as well, because you're a great people person, you've lended those people skills, those management skills into the world of events, and I know you support a very successful events company as well, so you've done it all. And you kept doing all of this despite some huge successes and tragedy in your family. Now, these are difficult conversations, and you don't know, if you want to talk about it, that's fine, I completely get it. You've got 3 children, I got that right? You've got grandchildren. Your younger son, Robert, he followed in his father's footsteps, but gone one step further. Sum up Robert's career to us.
Sorry,
Aled.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Well, Aled, first and foremost, and the most important thing, he's a great kid. That's the important thing. Yes, I like to think he's got a bit of me in him. You could see that at the age of 6, taking him over to Porth Rugby, he's a little bit different. But bearing in mind that I've done all of this, the big thing for me for kids is, do they enjoy it? Full stop, right?
So,
yeah.
What has he done? How did he build a career for himself?
Well, he Porth Rugby, Pontypridd Rugby. This is all minis rugbies. Cherokee, then represented Rhondda, then Blues North as it was, under 16s. I had a call, and I'll never forget that. I was on the John Revel bypass when he was 17. A guy rings me and says, we'd like to offer Aled a professional contract. And I'm pretty grounded when it comes to things like this. I said, don't you mean an academy contract? Oh, no. A professional contract. With Cardiff Blues, as they were then.
And the rest is history.
Yeah,
because Aled, how many caps? Not caps. How many appearances for the Blues, approximately?
Just about 100. Scoring about 40 tries.
40 tries.
Not other. Do you know? I'm the type. I got to say this. If Aled walked through the door now, and he's just been playing for somebody.
Yeah.
And I said, how did it go, Aled?
Yeah.
And he says, Dad, I scored 10 tries. I said, oh, fantastic. That's great. Right. Tell me about the rest of the game.
Well, there we go. Yeah. Attention to detail again.
Well, you got to.
So Aled has made a brilliant career for himself, professional rugby player, electrifying pace, obviously similar to yourself, because you said that you had great pace.
Downhill, yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant athlete, made a huge mark on Rhondda Rugby, Pontypridd Rugby, blues rugby in the regions and everything else. And I know I think he's coming to the sort of latter end of his career. You've got another daughter then, Keris. I got that right, haven't I? And then a guy who I met on numerous occasions, loved him to death. In fact, I couldn't play golf, but we tried to play golf on numerous occasions with this young lad, was Robert. Now, I know this is a hard one for you. Do you want to touch upon Robert?
Not much, but just to say that, just a fantastic guy. He's still there, he's my boy. That happened literally just over a few days ago. And for the sake of the purposes, I mean, I just loved him, still love him, miss him. We all miss him. But he's just a wonderful boy. And,
how long is he? I had a shock when you told me, because I'd lost touch with you for a few years as well. How many years ago was this?
Well, do you know what? I think it's 6 years now.
Right. Okay.
But I don't really know because I do not, in there, keep the date.
Now, this is where I think you've got courage. Like, I know it's life, things happen, but you've got courage and command respect like not many other people I know, because everybody sees you as this outgoing character, life and soul of the party, a professional in every respect in terms of being able to run your own businesses, support businesses, and then you've got these demons in your head that have been going on throughout your life, whether it's through losing your mum, anxiety, depression, setbacks in your professional career, losing a job, coping again with the fallout of that, and then the unthinkable of the unthinkable is losing a son, and I got a son of my own, so I can't comprehend it. Where do you find the strength, Robert, to keep going?
The easy answer, I don't know, but you can imagine I plunged into dark places, but eventually you put your head over the parapet again, and you go from there. I mean, that's all I can say. Is that, I don't know, it's in me. Is that I need company, so I think that's a lot of it. I'm a social animal when, in terms of, I can't just sit on my own all the time, although I enjoy some.
But you know what amazes me with you when you talk about company? I know you're out and about, meeting, greeting, walking. I know you love your dog, Tommy, and everything else. But again, a lot of people outside of this immediate space don't recognise you're fully integrated into the Rhondda community. You've been there all of your life, whether you're working or not working. You give back. You're now part of Rhondda School's rugby. There's a talent bed of players coming through that system, and you and people like Neil Boubier and Chris Jones. You're doing fantastic work in the Rhondda and developing this talent, and the conveyor belt is flowing through to the national side, and you're heavily involved in that. The latest conveyor belt for talent, just name me 3 or 4 in the Welsh setup who've come through Rhondda School's rugby. Who are they?
Well, Thomas Williams, the current
British Lion scrum half.
Played with Aled from the age of 8, I think it is.
Amazing. Who else have we got?
Well, you've got Kieran Azarati.
He's one of the Welsh props, is he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Corey Jomachek-Jeski.
Another prop?
Cameron Winnett.
These
are the current crowd.
Unbelievable.
We've had Matthew Rees in the past, another British Lion. So Tommy's our second British Lion.
Yeah.
But can I just say, what's special about that project?
Yeah.
It's not the rugby.
Yeah.
It's just through rugby, the medium of rugby, we give people, I say people, because there's girls involved as well.
Yeah.
An opportunity.
Absolutely.
I've
that's
sat
the
there
at that event that you run over in the Swalek Stadium on an annual basis, and to see that talent on the stage, and seeing the likes then of ambassadors coming back like Cam Winnett, as you just spoke about, to sort of be there and proven examples of where it really, really works, is just a credit to you and all of those people. So I think behind the scenes it's a remarkable story that you've got. There's resilience that you've shown throughout. There are demons that you carry in your brain, and you're quite public and open about it anyway to me, that you deal with it. It's happening, but you deal with it in your own way. And to
And
deal with
can
it.
I just take this opportunity with Ron the schools? I'm not the be all and end all.
No, I know you're not.
You've got the background of Bernard Jones,
Yeah,
OBE, who was the benefactor
Yeah.
for many years. You've got Clive Jones, who's
Yeah.
Chris's brother. Chris Jones
Yeah.
has been doing it now, I think it's 31, 32 years.
yeah,
Neil's been involved, I think, 24 years. I've
Yeah.
been involved 22. So it's a team effort again. And I'm just the background guy.
yeah.
who
But you're
don't-
not just the background. You,
Well-
you know, you're part of the glue that holds it all together.
Well,
Rob's fab story, before we finish up, and I think you'd appreciate this, I hate this next part of the podcast, but you've got about 30 seconds to introduce Rooney to the world.
well, I'm talking about, you meet certain people in life. And you mentioned Tommy, the dog. But this guy, I've had him now for, I think it's 48, 49 years. And he's been with me on many occasions.
And he keeps you saying, "Hi Rooney, how are
All right.
you?"
All right, bud. I've taken him on the back here, actually. There's the two Jonathan Davises, Jiffy
Yes.
and Jonathan Davis, obviously, Llanelli, Wales
Yeah.
Lions. They've signed the back and had their photograph. And in fact, they asked Rooney for his autograph, but he just finds it difficult to write.
Rooney, thank you for bringing Rob along to talk to us today. It's a fabulous story, and I'm grateful that you're part of it.
All
Rob,
right, he's,
thank you very much for joining us today on No Straight Lines.
Laurence, thank
Keep
you.
doing what you're doing.
I'll
You're a fantastic human being,
I'll have a word with Rooney now.
and keep it going.
All the best.
Thanks, Robert.
Cheers, mate.
Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.